Very good afternoon to all of you who have joined for this session today. And this topic for today, has been in the news for a while in terms of the fake GST drive and what the department intends to achieve. And we thought it's the best time to talk about this drive and also not just to understand what the government's intentions are, but to also understand as a taxpayer and as a business owner, what is it that needs to be done to face this and to not, be unduly worried about this particular drive. So the basis of all this was that there were a lot of fake GST registrations that were obtained by different people. Now, when we talk about fake GSTs, it could be one of two things. It could be that some invalid documents were used for the registration itself, which obviously means that the identity of the business and the identity of the business owners are not in a position to be identified, or there is an improper identity that's been done of the business. So this is one of the risks of a fake GST number. And the second largest risk, in fact, this has been a risk that has been there ever since the days of service tax and VAT, that's pre-GST era, is the issue of passing on invalid tax credit. Now, in a chain of business where people are buying and selling, whatever tax we pay on our purchases is the input credit. And now the system to create a fake GST number, to have fake invoices raised and to pass on this input tax credit without actually passing on a goods or a service. That is one of the motives of why a lot of people are taking these fake GST IDs. And one of the major reasons for the government's drive was to detect these kind of fake GST numbers. So this is the large objective. And now, what is the department going to do as a part of this drive? Before we even get into what the action points the taxpayers are, the government basically intends to visit a few of these premises of these taxpayers whom they believe could be fake GST numbers. The department has set up its own analytic team, where the analytics team is going to be, looking at data, looking at patterns, just to try and identify that these are potential fake numbers. So the drive is not going to be conducted on every taxpayer. The drive is clearly going to be conducted only on certain identified taxpayers, and the mode of identification is going to be some data analytics that the department has taken up. So this is how they're going to do it. And now coming to the important point in terms of the taxpayers, what are the action points for the taxpayer? Some of these are very basic requirements. One of the most important requirements, which is also something that's easily missed, is that there has to be a name board at the entry place of the registered premises. So if you have registered premises, let's say in a particular office, outside the office there has to be a name board, and the GST ID should be there on that name board. Now, when we are talking about name board, there are also a couple of pointers to be also checked. A lot of local labor laws also require that the name board is both in the local language as well as in English. So if that is the case, please also check your local state laws. You should have a name board with the name of the business in English and the name of the business in the local language, and the GST ID should mandatorily be mentioned on the name board. So this is a primary requirement. So if any of your businesses have not complied with this requirement, please ensure that the name board is done immediately and displayed on in the registered place. Second item is the GST certificate. So the moment you have registered, you will be issued a GST certificate. And for those who do not have the certificate, you can always go log into the GST portal. Under user services, you'll be able to view and download your certificates. Please keep the GST certificate readily available with you at the registered place of business. The next point is also again very critical, especially in today's world of shared services and shared offices. A lot of you might have obtained your registrations in a virtual office. Now, that could be places like WeWork. It could be a lot of these spaces which are basically common for a lot of businesses. Now, the GST mandates that a single place cannot be used for multiple locations unless you can demarcate an area. So if you've got a virtual office space, which you have basically used for registration, please ensure that at least one desk is available, demarcated in that area for your business. And that needs to be clearly shown to the GST officer when they visit the premises. The next point is again something that can commonly get missed. So if you have a primary place of registration where your office is registered, and you're doing businesses out of, let's say, two or three more locations. Best example I can give is in case of a trader, you may have registered your GST in your office, but you may be trading in your goods, or you may have a warehouse where you're storing some goods and are supplying goods from that warehouse. So if this is the case, this is the scenario, you should ensure that all the locations where business is done, it could be an office, it could be a godown, it could be a processing center, it could be a yard, whatever it could be, all these locations from where there is a purchase sale that is carried out or stock transfer that is carried out, all these places need to be registered as the additional place. The primary place will be the office where you have taken the registration, but wherever else business is being carried out, those places will have to mandatorily be registered as an additional place of business. The last point for the taxpayer is the department may ask for identity documents that were uploaded at the time of the registration, which could be the proprietor's Aadhaar card, PAN card, a certificate of incorporation, or if in the case of a partnership, the Aadhaar PAN of all the partners. Now, these kind of identity documents may be asked for by the department. So, if there is any case of a visit and the department asks for this, please ensure that all your KYC documents, identity documents, are all handy, and whenever the department asks for it, you should be in a position to produce that, because that also proves that incorrect documents were not furnished for the registration. Now, one of the important examples here, in fact, and a very common issue, is the case of a rental agreement. Typically, a rental agreement would be taken for a period of 11 months. Now, that 11 months period might be over, but the agreement may not be renewed. In such cases, you have to please ensure that the agreement gets renewed and the latest copy of a current running agreement is maintained, because this is also a document which will identify the address of the premises. So in these kind of cases, please ensure that all these documents are readily available. And this is something that every taxpayer on an ongoing basis will have to keep ensuring in all the registered places of business. Now, while this drive may seem something that is, anti-taxpayer, there are also measures that the department themselves have put in to ensure that the genuine taxpayers are safeguarded. Now, while this drive, like I mentioned, this drive is to target only the fake numbers, but it's also possible that the analytics of the department has thrown up a genuine taxpayer as a potential fake. Now, to ensure that the actual sincere taxpayers are not affected by this drive, there are a few measures. Now, that is what we are going to discuss. So, what are these simple measures? Now, for example, there is no concept of an on-spot cancellation. The department cannot basically inspect the premises and on the spot cancel the number, block input credits, or immediately say they have to recover taxes. None of this can be done without following a due procedure. There are multiple sections in the GST Act which specifies what is the process needed to be done for cancellation. For example, for cancellation, a notice of cancellation has to be sent. The taxpayer has to have the option of representing himself and explaining why the registration need not be cancelled, and only after that an order can be passed. So all of these measures are there in the due process of law to safeguard the taxpayer, to ensure that you are given an equal opportunity, equal justice to be heard and to put forth your arguments. So nothing that the department can do is can be done on spot. They have to follow a due procedure in this regard. The second point is, in fact, it is nowhere specified that the financial statements, IT returns, sales register, all of this need to be kept. Hard copies need to be maintained. It needs to be a file. It needs to be readily available. None of these are specified requirements. As long as you're in a position to explain the business and ask the taxpayer to issue a notice for these documents, you can always go back to the taxpayer, to the department, and submit these on a later date as well. There is nothing that is mentioned that these have to be kept ready for verification at all points of time. It is possible that a sales register, purchase register may not be available, may not be up to date on that date. There are a lot of business possibilities that comes into this. So there is no specific requirement as such. You can always ask for time and submit these documents at a later point of time. Also, the department will grant reasonable time to submit the documents. The third point, very important. In fact, third, fourth, and fifth points are extremely important in terms of understanding what is the basis for the tax officer to come into your premises. Now, always when there is a tax officer, please ask for their approval. They should have a notice that approves, or they should have a document that approves that they can come and inspect. And this approval cannot be somebody less than the rank of a joint commissioner. So please ask for a document for evidence as to why your premises is being inspected. You have every right to ask for this. None of these officers, unless they are of a rank of a joint commissioner or above, None of these officers can simply come and seize documents. They need to have proper approval. They need to have a notice. They need to have complete a proper order, a written document with them that allows them to seize these documents. So you can always object if there is no proper approval that the officer who's on site can show you. You can always ask for proper approvals, and only then can they take any of your documentation. And whatever authorizations are being shown to the taxpayer should always be before the date of the visit. So they cannot come visit the premises and then create a document to, to backdate that visit. That cannot be done. The authorization should be there before the date of visiting to the taxpayer. And please, when the officers are there, please ensure that these kind of documentation are available. The approvals are all available before they have come to visit, and that there is a proper review mechanism, a proper procedure that is being followed before information is handed over or any document is handed over. There is no obligation to simply hand over all documents without asking these questions. So that also is an extremely important, these are important measures that safeguard the taxpayers, and all the business owners should please pay extremely good attention to these points. And when the tax officer comes to your premises, you may please ask these questions openly to the tax officers. But again, as we mentioned, all of this, always try and be cooperative with the tax officer when they come. There is no need no need to panic. There is no need to react to anything. Please be cooperative with the officers. But wherever your rights are granted by the law, please ensure you assert and ask. Now, for example, the approval from the commissioner to come and inspect the premises. You are very much open to ask for these documents, but as much as possible, it is suggested to cooperate with the tax officers. Now, coming to the last portion of our discussion today, what will happen if there is a fake taxpayer or a non-existent business and they have registered fraudulently under GST? What is the potential action that the department can take? The first in fact, the most common step is the suspension of the registration, suspension and cancellation. Now, only if the registration has been obtained by fraud, by basically quoting an incorrect statement, only in that case the registration can be cancelled. And here also, even though it is obtained by fraud and the department has enough evidence to back it, they should still be in a position to give give a notice in GST RG 17, and time has to be given to the taxpayer to respond. Only after the taxpayer has responded and then the tax officer is still satisfied that the registration is still not valid, only then can he go ahead and cancel. Without an opportunity to hear the taxpayer, the registration cannot be cancelled. The next activity that the department can do is block the input credit. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the session, the motive of this fake drive was to stop the invalid ITC, or basically fake ITC, from being passed on. So if the department has a reason to believe that the business is non-existent and transaction is only being done on paper, there is no actual transaction and this is only done for the purpose of ITC, in that case, the ITC can be blocked. Basically, the electronic ledger, credit ledger, will be locked. The input credit in that ledger cannot be used for making payment of taxes. So this is something that can be done, but again, the rank of the officer has to be assistant commissioner. Assistant commissioner above only can do this activity. The next thing that can happen is also that the blocking that is already done like this by the assistant commissioner cannot exceed more than a period of 1 year. It can only be for a period of 1 year. And again, this is not the whole and sole activity that the officer can do. After this, the officer will also have to send a notice to basically then identify which of this credit is fake and how much is the tax that the taxpayer has to pay. So just by mere blocking, the process does not end there. Blocking is only a temporary step. The department will then calculate the tax that the taxpayer needs to pay on account of this incorrect ITC, and they will have to issue an order for that and basically recover the tax from the taxpayer. And then the last option that the department also has is to recover the input credit from the taxpayer who issued such fake invoices. So whoever has issued the fake invoices, once they have been identified, the department can issue a notice for recovery of tax and can go ahead and recover the tax, because issuing an invoice for the purpose of a fake input credit is basically a loss of revenue to the government. It's a loss of tax to the government. And because this is a loss of tax, the department can issue proceedings under section 73 and 74 of the Act. There is a due process of law for this as well. Order has to be issued. Again, taxpayer has to be given an option to respond. There is a due process of law, but after this process, they'll be basically be able to recover the fake input credit after all this process is done. So these are the three potential actions that the department can do. Now, before we go ahead and open this up to questions, I just want to give a very brief about the product KYSS that is being run by the JITFIN company. So KYS is basically a product trusted by 18,000 MSMEs today. And we have a few products that are available on the app, and you're please feel more than free to log into our website and check these products as well. There is an invoicing platform that allows you to generate your sales invoices. Also possible to generate e-invoices and e-way bills from this particular product. There is a supplier 360, which is very key in terms of business to know who your supplier is, especially that we've been talking about fake ITCs. It's extremely important to know who you're doing business with and what is the kind of track record of these suppliers. So the supplier 360 will ensure and help you to put up all your suppliers on this portal and to keep tracking on an ongoing basis whether they're filing their returns correctly, how genuine are they. To help track these suppliers, there's a supplier 360, which is a part of the KYS's offering. There is a tax reconciliation that is also one of the products that is offered by KYSs. GST Health, again, a product which will tell you, assess the GST health of your business, tell you how compliant you are, how better compliant you can be. So just to assess the health of the business in itself, there is also this GST Health that is being offered. The GST lookup is to basically, whenever you get any GST number, you can just enter the GST number on this GST lookup, and it will return the details of who the registered business is and where this business is located. So this is to basically look up any GST number on the app and to identify who this GST number belongs to. And one of the most important product offerings is the filing, GST filing. Very seamless, user-friendly filing and text-driven filing, which will ensure minimal errors in terms of filing the returns. So this is also one of the product offerings of KYSS. So this is what I have from my end. Saad, if there are any questions, we can now take it.
Thank you, Arvind. I think we have one question. Mr. Chetan Mehta has asked, how can I add my other shop address in GST portal by myself?
Okay. So, Mr. Chetan, to answer this question, you can do something called a core field amendment. So if you were to log into your portal, there is an option where it allows you to make amendments to core fields under user services. So there, once you do that, you will be in a position to, there's a tab specifically called additional places of business. In that place of business, you'll have to put up the address of that place. You'll have to put up the proof of ownership, which could be the rental agreement, or if it's an own premises of yours, you can give the tax paid receipt, for example. But the same process that you followed for registering your primary place, the same set of documents you will need to register the additional place as well. And you have to make a core field amendment on the GST portal under user services to go ahead and add another shop address. It's pretty intuitive on the portal. You should be able to do it all by yourself. But if not, you can always reach out to the KYSS team. The number is available on your screen. You can always reach out to the team and they should be able to assist you with this process.
Right. Thank you, Arvind. If anybody has any more questions, you can go ahead and unmute your mic and ask your questions to Arvind. He'll be more than happy to answer them.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We can.
Yeah, I'm Chetan.
Yes, sir.
Additional address अगर बिजनेस का अंदर ऐड करना हो तो क्या किया जाए, कैसे करें, क्योंकि एजेंट लोग हजार रुपया मांग रहे हैं.
हाँ, तो आपको आपके जीएसटी पोर्टल में लॉगिन करने के बाद यूजर सर्विसेज का ऑप्शन में एक कोर फील्ड अमेंडमेंट करके एक ऑप्शन है. कोर फील्ड अमेंडमेंट.
कौन सा?
कोर फील्ड अमेंडमेंट.
कोर फील्ड अमेंडमेंट.
हाँ. तो अगर आप उस पर क्लिक करेंगे तो आपको आपके जो रजिस्ट्रेशन के टाइम पे आपने जो फिल किया था वो सब इंफॉर्मेशन उसमें आ जाएगा. वहां पे आपको एक एडिशनल प्लेस करके एक टैब दिखेगा आपको, वहां पे आपको ऐड करना पड़ेगा. एडिशनल प्लेस करके दिखेगा. वहां पे आपको आपका एड्रेस डाल के और एड्रेस का प्रूफ भी डालना पड़ेगा. अगर आप ये भाड़े पे लिया है तो रेंटल एग्रीमेंट डालना पड़ेगा.
ठीक है.
तो वो करके ऐड करना पड़ेगा.
ठीक है सर. ओके, थैंक यू. हो जाएगा ना?
हाँ सर, काफी सिंपल है सर, आप पोर्टल पे लॉगिन करेंगे तो आपको पता चल जाएगा, काफी सिंपल है प्रोसेस।
ओके सर, थैंक यू सर।
ओके, थैंक यू।
या फिर अगर कोई और क्वेश्चंस नहीं है अभी, आप ये जो व्हाट्सएप नंबर देख रहे हैं आपकी स्क्रीन पे, उसी व्हाट्सएप नंबर पे आप अपना क्वेश्चंस भेज सकते हैं। हमारी जीएसटी टीम आपको तुरंत कांटेक्ट कर देगी। Arvind, I think we're good. Thank you
Okay.
for your time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. Please stay up to date with us for more such informative sessions. We will keep conducting these webinars on a weekly basis. Do stay tuned for more such information that can help you become 100% GST compliant. Thank you again. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.